Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. It's Monday, December the 12th, and as usual, on every Monday, I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. Doug, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Ross. And, boy, we 12, 13 days from Christmas. That's
Yeah.
kind of crazy to think about from that standpoint. But the bigger news and what we're going to talk about today is the bowl season is almost here. So that's the best news of all. And we all look forward to it. It's changed the last couple of years and we have to adjust. So that's all part of it. But, hey, I'm excited. Last year I was 10-6 during the bowl season. Year prior, when we had the COVID situation, 9-5, so that's 20-11 the last 2 years. So if I can do that again this year, I'll be even happier, Ross.
That's 66%, my friend. It's pretty damn good. And anybody who has any complaints in that regard, they need their head examined. All right, you mentioned the changes, Doug. Let's touch upon a few. We have to account for things we haven't had to account for in the past. I mean, the transfer portal. I mean, I got a list of college quarterbacks. Keaton Slovis from Pitt is transferring. Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State transferring. These are quarterbacks that their teams are in bowl games. DJ Ugalale, I hope I was close anyway, from Clemson. And anybody else of note? Austin Reed from Western Kentucky, and Drew Pine from Notre Dame. So a lot to account for in that regard, on top of the fact, and I'm going to be covering the game that has some interesting side notes when it comes to head coaching changes in the Louisville Cincinnati game, which I'm going to be covering as my free pick. And Doug's going to be talking about SMU and BYU, another good matchup. Both games will take place on Saturday, the 17th. But before we get to that, Doug, your thoughts?
Yeah, all of this transfer portal stuff, and the coaches have been leaving for years. We know about that, but it does change the complete dynamic of the situation. And then, of course, and this happened a couple of years ago, and it's just the ongoing part of it is the opt outs. Okay, and some of these opt outs are particularly difficult because some of them come, like that. Some of them come far enough in advance to where you can make adjustments. The lines are adjusted accordingly, et cetera, et cetera. But some of them, they happen like right at the end of their practices, so they practice for the bowl game. Maybe a player who wasn't thinking of, opting out, he gets a, minor injury, he opts out. Okay. So you've made your selections, maybe, you're ready to go, and it happens. And there's been other instances, Ross, that we've seen last year in particular. And I forget that there was two players in particular that come to, I can't think of what teams, because there's so many games or whatever, but they literally, when they got to the site, they opted out. They said, I'm not playing. Okay. One case I remember, I think it was the Alamo Bowl. The players were then sent home. If and they, in fact, they had to find their own way home. I could be wrong about the Alamo Bowl part of it, but so all of these things play a part into trying to handicap, and then the alterations of sides and totals. So that makes it a lot more difficult. So I'm trying to take this more, not that you shouldn't, anyways, on a game by game basis, and not look too far ahead, but have general thoughts. And then when you have to post, what you like, you just have to go with it. There's still some other fundamental stuff which I could touch on, but how about you? What are you thinking, Ross?
Yeah, it's the same thing, Doug. You're talking about guys opting out to go to the NFL. Look, it's become a business. We know the NFL is big business, but college football has become the same way. And the bottom line is anybody who's thinking of opting out is certainly been in contact with an agent, prospective agent anyway. And any agent with any kind of brains, unless the kid is playing in high profile games like the college football playoffs, is probably most likely and almost certainly going to tell him to opt out, because not only is it going to cost that kid a lot of money if he gets hurt, it's going to cost the agent as well. So that's something we haven't had to really take account of up until the last couple seasons. It's transfer portal. Like I just mentioned, some of the key quarterbacks are out. That's just a few. and that's teams that are playing in a bowl game. So not only are these starting quarterbacks opting out of the current program, it was a current program that had a winning record and qualified for a bowl game. And so no rhyme or reason other than it's business, folks. You never know nowadays with these deals. What do they call it? The NIL deals or something?
NILs, yep. NILs, yep.
Right, Doug. And what's it say? And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. If that comes into play too, a kid like Spencer Sanders. Now, I don't know anything about exactly why he's leaving. Let's just let me not even specifically name a guy. But if you're a starting quarterback at X university and you're playing at the Division I level, and somebody at Y university gets a hold of you and says, if you come here and transfer here, we're going to give you a $1 million NIL deal. I mean, these are things that we didn't have to account for in years past.
No question about it. Well, even the most recent example is a confusing one, and I have not looked to see what the story was. Was it 2 days after the regular season? I think it was last Monday. May, the freshman from North Carolina, he says he's in the transfer portal. Okay, he's out. Fantastic season. Probably. Well, no, he was the best freshman quarterback in the country this year. So he was fantastic. And I'm thinking he's going to transfer out of that situation. You know, I mean, that was really weird. 2 days later, he's coming back.
Yeah.
Okay? And so what is the mentality of what's his mentality going to be for their bowl game? Okay. Now, all we can do is speculate. We can try and find some information on it, but you really don't know. So that's another thing that comes into play. But I think, as you mentioned last week, beyond those types of things, you just have to stick with the fundamentals. You have to see what types of teams, looking at the statistics in terms of running the ball, passing the ball, who does the better job from that standpoint, who might have better special teams, or if you have matchups situations where, I'm sure you're going to be talking about some of them. I know I'm for sure going to be talking about in my free pick, some of the matchup things that are available. So you have to consider those types of things. And then the other thing that's important to do, I think, this time of year is to look through and try and find more obscure information relating to, for example, this isn't a great trend, but if you have two teams, for example, in a bowl game, especially early bowl games, to where one has an ATS record that is positive versus one that had a negative one in the season, roughly since 2005, I believe it's since like little over 56% on the team that covered the spread less often.
Wow.
So it's looking for that type of information and compiling it and putting it all into your package to make your selections. Yeah, and that's exactly what you and I are doing.
Yeah, well, that's what we've been doing all season. We've been professing not only all season, since we've been doing these podcasts together the last couple of years. We've always said you just can't marry yourself to one aspect of sports handicapping. The broader the base, the more the data, the more the information, the more likely you are to detect some betting value. And again, folks, it's not an exact science, but you want to be right a heck of a lot more than you're wrong. That's the key element right there. Yeah, I mean, it's this transfer portal, the head coaching changes. Some of the head coaching changes I was sort of surprised at. I mean, I'm going to touch upon one with Luke Fickell at Cincinnati. He was a big proponent of getting Cincinnati to a power conference. They're going to be in the Big 12, and he opts to leave to go to Wisconsin. So, and again, Doug, I've mentioned this in years past. It's worth mentioning again. I don't know how much you look into this, but you really want to also, it comes down to sometimes not the statistics and sometimes not the trends. I say sometimes being the key word, okay? Right. Because I don't want to make light of what you just said. But I'm sure you would agree, some of the aspect you might look at is what team is in the mood to be there? What team is excited to play a bowl game? If you get a team that was a top 25 team at the beginning of the season, or a top 10 team at the beginning of the season, they finish a disappointing 7-5, and now they're playing a team from outside a power conference. There's a good chance the team outside the power conference is going to be much more motivated. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to cover 100%, but something to take into consideration, right, Doug?
Oh, you have to. I mean, I think it's a very it's talked about a lot, what you just said, but it's not easy to gauge. Now you can try and follow different reports or try and get information, which is not always easy to get. And you'll remember, speaking of that, this goes back to even, I think, even before you and I were even doing this, is that all these guys, supposedly the handicappers of yesteryear, had all these scouts at all these different
Yeah.
football programs and stuff like that. That's another topic, but to where they would say, "Oh yeah, I know this team's going to be ready to play. I know that the quarterback, he was sleeping with the daughter's coach and he got in trouble and all that other stuff." It was
Yeah.
hilarious,
Yeah.
But that type of information would be useful in terms of how a team is practicing. I go back to one that I forget what the year was, but Alabama played Utah in the Sugar Bowl. Okay,
Yeah.
and they did not come to play at all. It was such a
Yeah.
weird Nick Saban coach team thing to see, but it did happen. And there's other ones too. And I think you just kind of have to roll with the punches here. If a team has maybe a disappointing finish, and they're playing in the, let's just call anything be other than the Super Six Bowls is what they're referred to as now.
Yeah.
A team could be disappointed to play in those games, but sometimes if they had a disappointing loss in the season, when you have a 5 or 6 week period from the end of your season to the bowl game, you can get over that.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's plenty of teams that have, as to where, there's kind of like, initially you'd say, oh boy, there's no way they're going to be ready to play. But all of a sudden they do come to play. And because they're excited, they got rejuvenated, something changed that allowed them to get back into the swing of things. And that's what happens too. So it's trying to be aware of all those factors.
Good points, Doug. Very good points. And I can almost assure you, folks, we see this every year, and we'll see it again this year at some point. And I'll be shocked if it doesn't happen.
With 40 some games, you're all but guaranteed for it to happen.
Dougie, somewhere along the line, a group of kids from a certain school will not make curfew and will be suspended 2 or 3 days before the game. It
Yes.
happens every year. These kids are on, they're going to a bowl site. They're getting catered to. They're there for a whole week. A lot of them are coming from cold weather sites and they're in warm weather sites. So there's a lot to keep track of at bowl time at this time of year. Anyway, we have 2 good bowl games on Saturday, the 17th. We're going to start with Doug. He's going to look at the BYU and SMU game, which is the New Mexico Bowl, played in Albuquerque, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time start on Saturday. And right now, as we speak, SMU, a 4-point favorite with a total of 65, Doug.
Yeah, and that was by the way, Albuquerque, nice town. Been there many times. So better than most people would realize. And the only disappointing thing about that is the game is going to be a night game for the first time, to my knowledge, and you won't be able to see the Sandia Mountains, which are gorgeous.
Isn't it? That's one of the most ideal sites for college football in terms of stadiums. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, really nice. Anyway, so yeah, we got a couple of 7-5 teams, Ross. That came into the year with higher aspirations. Everybody, anybody that follows college football knows that this game's going to be on ABC, so that should be good. And the odds have moved fast and furiously, because now Ross brought up, he said that SMU is now a 4-point favorite. Well, they opened up as a 1-point underdog initially, and the total on this game, he said, now at 65. It was at 74. Yeah. Before all these things happened. So what happened? Well, we're going to start with BYU quarterback Jalen Hall. He suffered a severe ankle injury in his last game when they played Stanford. There is no official word, yet on his status, but clearly the odds makers do not believe he's going to play by the line movement of the game and the fact that and then the total dropping as much. And there was a report that a quote unquote unnamed Cougar player said it'll take a miracle for Hall to play in this one with that ankle. So we'll see. On that. The other thing too, BYU also lost their second best tackler, Keenan Pili, linebacker, and they had another linebacker transfer. So now they're going to be a little thin at the linebacker position. Now SMU didn't go unscathed. Leading receiver, who I thought was one of the best receivers in the country, Rashee Rice, 96 catches, uh, 10 touchdowns, over 1,300 yards. He was great. He's out. He's got a bad ankle. He said he's getting ready for the NFL draft. He's a stud. So that's another loss. But at least, though, for SMU, they got Tanner Mordecai under center. And I think that's a big factor on the plus side for them. 31 touchdowns, 3,300 yards passing, just 9 interceptions. Even though Rice is going to be out, this roster still has a lot of speed at the wide receiver position, and they're going to be going against a BYU secondary who, in my opinion, does not have a lot of speed. So I think you're going to see a lot of deep shots by SMU or deep throws, down the field, trying to make big plays, and they're going to hit some. Okay, no question about it. Now, with or without Hall for BYU, here's one thing you can follow: they're going to run the ball. Okay, because they're going against the 121st run defense in the country. SMU is small up front. It was by design that's how the previous coach, Sonny Dykes, liked it. Well, they're going to try and upgrade it. But so these guys are super quick, but they are small, so they're going to look to pound the ball. Normally, in that situation, I like a team that can run the ball in a bowl game, okay, and does a decent job. Neither team is very good against the run. SMU is worse. But in this case, I'm going to go against that concept. And here's one of the things that Ross had brought up: excitement level, okay, in the game. The last 2 years, SMU could have gone to bowl games, but didn't because of COVID situations. So games canceled or, some other outside factor. So I think they're going to be really excited to be in this bowl game. So with this one, Ross, I'm going to say, with the current situation as we know it today, I'm going to say SMU 41-35 with a late score, okay, on that one to win it. And so if I'm taking that many points which is 76, that means I'm also going on the over. So give me the ponies. I'm going to ride them, Ross, on this one.
Yeah, it has all the earmarks of a high-scoring, entertaining affair, and I can't disagree with that. That's for sure. And Doug made all good points on why he thinks it's going to go over. And yeah, you're right, Doug. I mean, with BYU, that was a team that was ranked, I believe, in the preseason poll. I want to say they were number 14. I know definitely they were in the top 20 somewhere.
Right.
And now they're a 5-loss team, are they, Doug?
Yes, 7-5.
7-5, disappointing season without their starting quarterback and playing in a bowl game that they had much higher aspirations of being at or before the season began. So good point, Doug. And BYU, SMU to go over. The total is 65 in the New Mexico Bowl. From Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. Speaking of DocSports.com, some really good handicappers over there. My favorite one is with me right now. And that's a site that's been around for 51 years, folks. Longevity speaks volumes in this business. Like I've told you time and time again, you're looking at two handicappers here. I might as well put my face up there, right, Doug? So they can hear me, see me while I'm talking.
Yes.
Two handicappers here who have been around for over 2 decades now. So again, longevity, folks, you don't do this, you don't last in this business full time unless you're doing something right. And number one, we win. So Doug, you want to touch upon how you've been doing of late?
Yeah, I'll make it real quick. Like I said, I gave you the bowl record, so that's been good. So Doug Upstone at Doc Sports. NFL had the Cincinnati Bengals yesterday. That makes it 5 straight best bet winners, okay, in football. So for sure, I'm gonna have something this weekend, likely in the NFL, likely in college football, okay, coming up. So you can check that out. 19-10 NHL, that continues to do well. Had a tough loss yesterday, but still 19-10. I'll take that. And over the last 10 days, I have winning records both in college basketball and in the NBA. Ross hit some big plays. So yeah, things are looking up. That's for sure.
And you won an overtime game as a free pick last week, if I'm not.
I did do that. I know. In fact, I had another one too. Off the top of my head, of course, if I lost it, I could tell you what the game was. But right now, off the top of my head, I won a college basketball game that went overtime. So yep, that's all. We talked about the positive and the negative. So what about yourself, Ross?
Not bad, Doug. 2-3 in the NFL yesterday. I've been in the top 5 in the NFL at top 10 at least. in the NFL on all the leaderboards, on all the sites I'm at all year long. That hasn't changed. The 2 and 3 day did not deter that. I'm still right around 58% for the season, and going back to January 30th of last year, I'm close to 59%. So NFL, even though we had a difficult day yesterday, we did cash in on our 10-star top play, which is Doug's equivalent of his best bets. And I had the San Francisco 49ers, a cakewalk, 35-7 over Tampa Bay, a game that was probably more lopsided than the final score would indicate. But that makes me 12-4 with my NFL 10-star top plays this season. And dating back to last year, I'm on a 22-9 run with my NFL 10-star top plays. College basketball really rolling right now, Doug. 22-10 with my last 32. That's put me up over 61% for the season in college basketball. So pretty happy about what's going on there. The NBA, 58% since April 1st of last year. And again, my college basketball and NBA combined 74-52 dating back to last year, which is, again, right around that 58% mark. So, it might be ironic that a lot of the percentages is 58%, but you know what, folks? If you do the math on 58%, you're going to make a lot of money. 55%, you'll make a lot of money over the long haul. So just keep that in mind. You could give me all of my premium picks at rbwins.com. That's R as in Ross, B as in Benjamin, wins like me and Doug do.com. All right, let me take a look at my game. And we're talking about head coaches here because, Doug, I'm going to throw a lot of the statistics out the window here. I'm also going to throw any betting angles out the window here. I'm going to stick to what I know at this time of year. Louisville and Cincinnati, Saturday, Fenway Park in Boston, the Fenway Bowl, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Almost seems weird saying that, Doug.
For sure.
Yeah. Luke Fickell, the head coach at Cincinnati, I mentioned him earlier, and he left for Wisconsin. That was a real head scratcher to a lot of people, but I guess money talks. And a situation in Wisconsin where he's got great facilities. He knows there's going to be 80,000 people plus in the stands every home game. So good luck to him with that. So he leaves his team behind, and he's going to be replaced at Cincinnati by Scott Satterfield. Who is Scott Satterfield? He coached Louisville all year long. Not only is he leaving to go to Cincinnati, ironically enough, these two teams are playing in a bowl game. And you know what? I'm reading the articles on this whole thing around the Louisville situation, and the players were very, very upset with Satterfield because a lot of them found out through Twitter. That's how they found out their coach was leaving. And I think you might want to consider the fact that Louisville is going to be highly motivated in this situation. I think that I can't see any other circumstance in which Louisville does not have the emotional edge in this game. Cincinnati lost their final game to Tulane. It cost them a chance to go to the American Athletic Conference championship game again. Their head coach leaves, and Louisville loses their head coach. And their head coach headed to the team they're going to be playing in bowl game. I can't say much more than that. On top of that, Louisville lost their last game 26-13 at Kentucky. That dropped their regular season record to 7-5. And they've been a resilient team this year, coming off a loss. As a matter of fact, 4-0 straight up in ATS off a loss this season, winning by over 19 points per game. And strength of schedule heavily favors Louisville playing in the ACC as opposed to the American Athletic Conference, which is really top heavy. I'm going to go with Louisville here. On the money line, folks, they're currently -1. They're 115 on the money line, -115. That is, I'm going Louisville -115 over Cincinnati on the Fenway Park or Fenway Bowl at Fenway Park. Easy for you to say, Doug. And Doug, tell the folks again who you like and any final thoughts.
Yes, I like two things. I like the over 65, and I like SMU -4 in the New Mexico Bowl on ABC on Saturday night. And one other point I'd like to make that I agree with you on your Louisville pick is the fact that Louisville, I did not look yet because I haven't gotten that far yet, but I know that at least in the last 7 or 8 games, they were one of the top sacking teams in the country and also creating negative plays with the defense. Defense isn't great, but they make up for it by creating negative plays. And Cincinnati's offense had some real struggles against better competition towards the end of the season. So I like your pick there, Ross.
Yeah, it's not the Cincinnati team we saw last year that went
No.
to the college football playoff. That was they were dominant during regular season action with
NFL talent everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all you have to do, would they have they had like 7 or 8 guys get drafted,
Right.
if not more.
From an American conference team. That's
Right.
that's something.
Non-power conference, right? Yeah, that's an achievement, right, Doug? So,
Absolutely.
all right, so we'll be back on Thursday with Doug Upstone. We'll be talking the NFL at that particular moment in time. Don't forget, visit Doug at DocSports.com. He told you all the hot streaks he's on. This guy is a money handicapper, folks. You need to follow him. You also need to follow me as well. RBWins.com. Told you how hot I've been in college basketball. I'm going through a very, very good NFL season. So, again, RBWins.com and DocSports.com. That's where you'll find the both of us. One additional comment is if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please take a second to do so. It'll cost you absolutely nothing, and you'll be privy to some of the best handicappers in the country. Not only myself and Doug Upstone, also Jesse Shule, Sean Higgs, and Big Al McMorty. So until the next time, folks, take care. God bless.